there. Great work from him in August with the assist. That beautiful throw that Carl was able to catch.
Yeah, that throw had a nice OI path, meaning the disc flew outside then in, so it flew away from August, then back in, cutting towards him.
We apologize again. We're having some technical difficulties with the stream. We'll keep broadcasting as much as we can, and Tyler and I will keep making commentary, but we may be going silent for a couple minutes as we fix our streaming issues.
Yeah. If nothing else, these games will be uploaded after the fact, so if it cuts out for a bit and you miss some action, you can check it out later.
The enthusiasm is definitely really eminent here on the field. Both teams really cheering each other on and cheering on themselves. Lots of pole cheers and cheers in general between both teams. Definitely a very vibrant game.
Yeah. Yeah, it's currently tied at a 3-all, though Richmond is on serve, going back on offense, so they're kind of up a break right now. The idea being that if from here on out the offense scores every time, Richmond would finish on top 15-14. I describe it as relatively unlikely that that pattern continues for an entire Ultimate Frisbee game, but it's also hard early on. Sometimes teams are still kind of doing a little bit of checking each other out. They'll throw a few different looks early on to try to get a sense of how teams respond and react to different things.
William Mary Dark Horse on offense right here. Taylor Gilman on the mark, number 99. The really impressive mark right here. But a great catch from number 13 on Richmond, who was able to recover that fumble.
That throw came in a little high. He bobbled it, but tipped it back to himself. And that's always an important thing to remember. The disc isn't down until it actually hits the ground. For those of you who watched the earlier game, you saw more than a few throws that were kind of bounced around and deflected before being caught. William Mary is making Richmond work hard for a lot of these, but so far they've had some very sticky hands hauling just about everything in.
Yeah, although the wind has died down a little bit today, you still can't predict always the path of the disc sometimes, so they may be a little loftier than you expect, so you always got to have good field awareness to be able to react and recover that disc.
Yep. Richmond's kind of been, well, they get it in the center there after a few throws trapped on the sideline. They're about as close to the dead center of the field as you can get. Again, Taylor Gilman with a great deflection there, but Richmond hauls it in. Another great catch. 13's had a few catches that have been pretty difficult, but he keeps hauling them in.
Yeah, they've been having some really great upfield movement here, looking for that point. They're pretty close to their end zone. But unfortunately, the pass is incomplete, and it is a turnover, so William Mary will start on offense.
Yeah, and that is, I believe, the first turnover that William Mary's defense has been able to generate, so we'll see what they're able to do with it here. They are going to start kind of trapped in their own corner, about 70 yards from the end zone, which is a bit of a tricky situation to be in, but we'll see what they do with it.
Jonathan Collins started with a disc, a senior from Omaha, Nebraska, one of the main handlers on this D-line here for Dark Horse. He's moving it up the field pretty quickly. Nice deep shot from him right here to Bryce, number 13, who completes it. Great throw here, a little body action, but he still maintains possession of the disc.
Yeah, it can be a little tough here because he caught the disc while everyone else was downfield. Jonathan catches up quickly to get him the reset. Seems like it's going to be Jonathan and Taylor acting as the D-line handlers for most of the night. Two of the most experienced players on the team.
They're looking for a cutter to make some moves in the end zone to hopefully get a point for William Mary Dark Horse here.
When you catch this, you only have 10 seconds to throw, which is why there's been a lot of back and forth so far between Jonathan and Taylor. They're both resetting the discs to each other. And
an almost layout disc for William Mary. Or, sorry, my apologies for Richmond.
A good try off the tip, but some solid defensive play by Richmond there. They'll get the disc back, looking to take a 4-3 lead.
Turnover right here for Richmond. It looks like there's a little bit of miscommunication about whether he was in bounds, so resetting that play right here, but they will be starting out on offense.
Yeah, I think there was also a pick called downfield, so that'll cause some reset.
Unlike other sports, picks are not allowed in Ultimate. A pick is when you have to run through a player or there is some sort of obstacle in order to catch up to whoever you are guarding. Typically, if a pick is called, the disc will go back to whoever threw it originally. Continuous upfield movement here from Richmond.
We'll see. David Bishop, one of the rookies on the mark there. William Mary has a fairly large rookie class. I think they have 11 rookies on the team this year, though as Megan mentioned earlier, a lot of them have played Frisbee in high school or previously. So even though they might be new to Dark Horse, they're not necessarily new to the game, although some of the rookies are new to the game. Some of us, myself included, are kind of introduced to the game when they show up on campus, and That's a great snag by Richmond.
Another score for Richmond right here by number 21, making it 4-2. The first lead in the game, up more than 1 point.
Sorry.
Oh, my apologies. 4-3. Richmond's still in the lead as of right now. Still a pretty close game, so we'll see what happens.
Richmond generated the one break early on, but since then it's been back and forth, although William Mary's D-line did generate a turn there, which is what you want to see from your defense. They didn't quite capitalize on it, but it's always good to generate turns on defense. As you mentioned earlier, Catherine Rowe was present in the game tonight, the newly elected president of the College of William Mary, the first female president of the college, and the first Ultimate Frisbee player president of the college. She was previously the provost of Smith College and did her undergrad at Carleton, which is one of the Frisbee powerhouses. As Megan mentioned, she co-founded both the Boston Ultimate Discus Alliance and Carleton's women's Frisbee team. She was also a World Ultimate Frisbee Club finalist. It's pretty exciting to have someone like Catherine Rowe in office, not only being the first female president, but it was definitely neat for everyone in the program. You know, usually when a college elects like a provost or chancellor or someone, it's an academic type you're not too familiar with, so it was neat to have an instant connection such as Ultimate Frisbee with her, and she is a supporter of the program, as we mentioned, coming by to some of our practices and to the game tonight.
Yeah, she is here on the sidelines with us, cheering us on a bench nearby, and it looks like here that Richmond's going to start off on defense again, pulling the disc to William Mary Dark Horse on offense. Great pull here from Richmond.
Pretty good hang time on it, though it's drifting to the right, and we'll see.
It looks like it did land out of bounds. If a pull lands out of bounds, the player picking up the disc is allowed to bring it to the center of the field, which is advantageous for the offense because they have more space to work with. Yeah,
the sideline can almost work as an 8th defender at times, so not needing to worry about that's always great.
Great movement here from Dark Horse. They appear to be in a vert stack offense. Gus Norbaum, again, touching almost every other disc. He's a really integral part of this O-line and a really key handler. He has some club experience playing for DC Truck Stop this past summer.
Truck Stop being one of the top men's club teams in the country. They often finish in the top 5 or top 10 at the end of the season. Aaron Groves, also known as Uno, the team president with the disc. That's a great catch by August Wagner. Very contested, but still able to haul it in, although there is some discussion about it.
And this is really important where the observers may come into play because they may be able to see another perspective and add an unbiased opinion into the matter.
Yeah, I think the defender might have been calling a foul, saying August pushed off a bit to make that catch, so after some discussion they wave it off, and that's not that uncommon to see. Sometimes the defender, you know, they feel like there was a bit of a push off, not enough to be a foul, but they do want to discuss it to say, like, don't do this again, or, you know, maybe I'll call it next time.
And that's all important in the spirit of the game, especially facilitating discussions about calls and really understanding what happened in a play is super important in maintaining a positive, supportive community. Great movement here from Dark Horse, and it looks like Carl Lasker again with a score, number 20.
Yeah, and that brings the scores back to 4-all. We have a tie game again, and Dark Horse's defense will be coming out on the field shortly.
Yeah, Carl Lasker, a junior, actually started his ultimate playing here at the college on the men's B team, William Mary Seahorse. But ever since he moved up to Dark Horse, has been a huge part of the program and is definitely an important member of the O-line.
Yeah, Megan and myself are both members of the B team. The president of Seahorse, and Megan's captain of the Woolly Mammoths, the women's B team. We have 4 Frisbee programs here at the college. Dark Horse you're seeing on the field now is the men's A team. The Mother Huckers, who played earlier, are the women's A team. Seahorse is the men's B, and the Woolly Mammoths are the women's B team. It's pretty neat to have such a big community here. I think between the 4 teams, we have a little over 100 people playing Frisbee, which is pretty neat to see at a school the size of William Mary, just being about 6,500 undergrads. And it's a very supportive community. A lot of the people here in attendance tonight are other Frisbee players here at the college.
Absolutely.
Dark Horse has more than a few players who started out on a Seahorse, including Taylor Gilman, who's been their lead D-line handler, Carl Lasker, who had the goal there, Kyle Van Hoy and Jack Helms, a few other key contributors for Dark Horse who started their career out in Seahorse. Dark Horse is a relatively young team this year, as we mentioned earlier. They had about 12 or 13 seniors last year, so sometimes when you have that high level of roster churn, it's always interesting to see how the team turns out. But so far, they've been doing pretty well. And I don't know if you caught it there at midfield. It seemed like August and the observers were talking a little bit to try to discuss what the Richmond player was talking about. They did wave it off at the end, but sometimes it is good to have those discussions just for the sake of keeping the game playing in the future.
Looks like both teams have a timeout here. Not sure which team called the timeout, but looks like play will resume here with William Mary Dark Horse starting out on defense. Senior Jonathan will be pulling the disc again to Richmond.
Yeah, each team gets 1 timeout per half plus a floater. What that means is you have 1 timeout per half guaranteed and 1 additional timeout that can be used in either half. So 1 half you can take 2 timeouts, the other half you can only take 1. But it's up to you to decide when and how you want to use it. You can either call a timeout between points if you want to take a breather or discuss some strategy. Sometimes if a team scores a few goals on you in a row, you want to take a timeout to kind of get a mental reset. But a player with the disc on the field can also call a timeout. Sometimes if they're stuck in a bad position, or sometimes a player catches a huck deep downfield and doesn't have a reset option, their best option is to call a timeout because teams can choose to set a play coming out of a timeout.
Looks like coaches and teammates are still strategizing on the line for both teams here.
Yeah, it looks like Coach Ethan's walking off the field right now. Jonathan Collin raises, indicating he's ready to pull.
Richmond also acknowledging that they're ready to receive the pull, so this should be coming into play very soon.
Yeah, and they'll be looking to get the Dark Horse is looking for their first break of the game to retake a 5-4 lead, but so far Richmond's had a very efficient offense.
Great hustle here from Dark Horse getting down the field to start up this defense. But also great movement from Richmond, already moving it up the field pretty effectively.
You can see they're calling out their force of forcing away, meaning they want all the throws to come on the sideline further from Dark Horse and their stuff. Teams call out a force because it sort of limits the options that defenders have to guard, only needing to guard a portion of the field instead of the whole thing.
Looks like Richmond here is running a horizontal stack offense. Just a different way and formation of the team members on the team. They would have 3 handlers back, so those people who touch the disc more, and 4 cutters.
Let's see, a deep shot goes up, and Clay Little, one of the freshmen for Dark Horse, gets the D.
Looks like a little bit of a contested call right here. Observers coming in.
Yeah, we'll let the players on the field sort it out, see what they decide. Unfortunately, I don't think either of us have played too many games with observers, so it looks like they do rule no foul. Oh, and unfortunately for Clay, he gets hand blocked right there, so Richmond is able to generate a turn right back.
A hand block is when you're covering someone with the disc, and they release the disc, and you're able to knock it down before they can actually complete the pass to another person.
Sometimes it can be a little tough. If you catch a D like Clay did in the end zone, so you have to start with the disc, although in theory you're supposed to take it up to the front end zone line. I don't believe Clay did there, and that is a goal for Richmond to make it 5-4, but it can be tricky because it means one of your handlers isn't starting with the disc and someone else has to, and as you saw there, unfortunately it didn't work out there for William & Mary. Richmond reclaims a 5-4 lead.
And that was caught by number 21 on Richmond.
As we mentioned earlier, the game has a 2-hour time cap, although we're only about 25 minutes in and already 9 points have been scored, so it's been going at a pretty quick pace so far. Neither team's had a really long marathon point where both teams commit turnovers. There's been 1 or 2 turnovers per point at most, and then they've been able to work it in.
Yeah, as you notice, these points have been relatively short. Tyler mentioned the term marathon point right here, which can be points that actually last for up to 15, 20, even 30 minutes. So endurance is really important in this game if you're stuck in a situation like that and have to play for that period of time.
Unless the player gets injured, you're not able to substitute on the fly during a point. So players often just have to grind it out and keep running around. We've mentioned a couple of times that Richmond's a Division III program. What that means is there's really 2 divisions of Frisbee in the college level, Division I and Division III. There's no Division II, could not tell you why. Division III was first created in 2010, and it consists of schools with a total enrollment of 7,500 or fewer. William & Mary with 6,500 undergrads and about 1,500 grad students just clears that barometer at 8,000. The Richmond Spider Monkeys actually won the Division III national title back in 2017. Teams in Division III can't choose to play up a division if they choose, but teams in Division I can't play down. And that's only for conference and championship tournaments. It looks like the pool comes back in, and William & Mary's offense is on the field.
Gus Norbaum again with the disc off to Carl Lasker, number 20. Great throw from Carl Lasker here to Kyle Van Hoy with a little bit of a tip
still
off.
Up and then swatted down.
Looks like number 0 on Richmond was able to recover that disc and take it turn over to a different possession.
William & Mary's offense will try to play some defense, generate a turn to get the game back to 5-5.
Looks like they got some pretty tight defense here, playing really aggressively, going after the disc 100%, which is what you want to see on a defense.
Yeah, it can be a little hard when you just get scored on to get back and play defense, but they're doing a good job here. And
Turn here
Gavin
from
Grossman, a
Richmond.
freshman with a bit of a kill there, though. That just sort of sailed over, but it's always better to swat a D down to play it safe than anything. Some of the William Mary players are giving him a little laugh at the sideline for the gentle way he knocked that disc to the ground, but better safe than sorry, and if you can kill a disc, you always should.
William Mary offense right here doing a great job of working the disc up the field, getting some great movement with the players here. Gabe,
They're trapped on a sideline right now a bit. They get the disc back to Gus, as they often do.
Gabe with a little bit of a bobble, but he's able to recover and maintain possession of that disc. Gus again with the disc here to Uno, or Aaron Groves, number 1.
A disc
and
is
a little
floating
bit of
in
a
the
read,
air,
and
then
unfortunately, the disc is knocked out of bounds,
although
a call has been made.
Kyle's going to call a foul there. I think he's saying the Richmond player pushed off on him a little early. We'll see what they discuss. We can't really hear down from our broadcasting booth what they're saying, but hopefully they get it resolved relatively quickly. It looks like the Richmond player might also be a little injured and is slow to get up after that.
And again, these observers coming into play for this game, able to provide another perspective. Looks like we have to run a medic out in the field because of a Richmond player being injured. Not sure quite yet what's wrong, but he's sitting down on the ground, so
yeah, it looks like he's got a little bit of a leg pain there. Hopefully everything's all right with him, and it's just a little soreness, but there is a trainer coming out to take a quick look at him.
Again, as Tyler mentioned, you are not allowed to sub any or have any subs during a point of within a game unless you are injured. So if this player is going to be out for the game, someone is allowed to come in for him and play.
Yeah, and if one team has an injury where they have to substitute a player, the other team's also given the option to substitute even if no one's injured. So that's the only time you're allowed to substitute without an injury on your team.
It also looks like we've resolved some of our technical difficulties, so there'll be no need to switch, and we'll be able to continue live streaming from this service. So,
yeah.
And it looks like the Richmond player is being carried off the field.
Yeah, he's able to walk off the field with some help, but it's good to see that he's at least able to put some weight on himself and walk off the field.
Absolutely, and that trainer is right there with him, able to provide care immediately. And it looks like Kyle Van Hoy, William Mary Dark Horse, will maintain possession of the disc. He's going to be starting on the edge of the end zone, so not quite in, but a really great opportunity.
It looked like
for
when
Dark
that
Horse
disc was in the air, the Richmond player had a decent read on it, but he hit Kyle before he hit the disc. And then, and that is a goal to get it back at 5-5.
That was an assist from Kyle Van Hoy to Gabe Westergen, number 38.
Yeah, Kyle Van Hoy, one of those players who started out on Seahorse, the B team.
Been a pretty exciting, tight game so far. Tied up right now, 5-5. Should be interesting to see how this game continues. If one team is able to score 8 points within the next 8 points eventually, we will take half. We are playing a game to 15.
And as we mentioned earlier, tonight's game is benefiting Here for the Girls, which offers support and resources for young women with breast cancer. We do just want to remind you that there's donation links available, and we still have a bit of a friendly competition going on to see which team can wind up with more donations. It's a great organization. Hopefully we'll have a quick message for them at a halftime or at some other point in the game.
You can find our donation link information on the William Mary Ultimate Twitter. It's at WM Ultimate. Both teams are still eligible to donate, so keep that donations coming in.
Yeah, absolutely. So far it's been about $2,000 worth of donations, which is fantastic to see. Even if it's currently in favor of Richmond, it doesn't really matter when it goes to charity at the end of the day, which just school generates more.
Coach Ethan Downs walking off the field from WM Dark Horse. The D-line is back on. Taylor Gilman going to be pulling with the disc.
And despite the shoulder injury, it seems like he still is doing his pulls right-handed. He is able to generate more power using his natural throwing hand as opposed to an offhand. There were a couple of games earlier in the season where he was playing and throwing exclusively lefty, but though he's still wearing the sling, I guess his shoulder's at a point where he's comfortable throwing with his right hand.
And the pull is off. Richmond picking up the disc, starting out on offense here. Looks like they're doing a little bit of an interesting offense here, trying to get some deep shots really quickly down the field.
Yeah, they have a lot of their cutters.
Number 13, but incomplete, so turnover right here.
That was a very tricky catch for that Richmond player to make. That disc was coming in with a lot of speed and an angle. It's very hard to catch a disc coming in angled. It's a lot easier to catch it if it comes in flat, so well, it's a drop. The player had a good read on the disc, and it would have been a very tricky and impressive catch to haul it in.
Taylor Gilman starting off with the disc here for Dark Horse on offense. Looks like they're running some sort of play, trying to get the disc to senior handler Jonathan.
Yeah, it seems like both teams kind of ran a bit of a play at the start. Richmond had all their players set up in a side stack where they pushed their players towards the sideline, whereas Dark Horse kept their cutters in the middle of the field, but they had a couple of pre-planned cuts coming out.
Looks like they're running somewhat of a vert stack here, but unfortunately a turn from Dark Horse. Richmond now going to be on offense once again.
Yeah, William Mary's defense has been able to generate a couple of turnovers, but they haven't been able to punch it in, which is, if you're the defense, you have to trust that the opportunities will come eventually, but if they keep generating turns, I'm sure they'll be able to punch it in eventually, but for now, Richmond's back on the field about 20 yards from the end zone.
Number 30 right here with the disc, up to number 13, back to 30 again, really close right here, looking for someone to get him to score. And completed by number 11,
and that gives
putting Richmond in the lead.
Yep. Yeah, they go back to a 6-5 lead, sitting on top. As we mentioned briefly earlier, Dark Horse last season made college nationals, which is where the top 20 teams in the country get to compete for a title. They finished tied for 13th. It was their first nationals appearance since 2004. They were able to punch their ticket to nationals with back-to-back wins over UNC Wilmington and Virginia Tech. And while at nationals, they notched wins over Georgetown and UNC, who were actually the eventual national champions. They were the only team at nationals to beat UNC over the weekend, so that was a pretty big win for them and pretty impressive for the program.
Yeah, so both teams here tonight did attend nationals last year, although they were in different divisions. These are both very high-caliber teams and both looking to actually attend nationals again this year.
Yeah, Richmond, the Spider Monkeys, have made Division III nationals 4 times in 14, 16, 17, and 18. And in 2017, they won the title with a 15-12 win over Davidson. They finished 7th in 2014 and 9th in 2016 and 18. And on Ultiward, they're currently ranked as the number 3 team in the country, so in Division III. So they have a pretty decent chance to make some noise at nationals again. The number 1 and number 2 teams in the country, Middlebury and Carleton College GOP at the D3 level, are actually playing today at a College Southern down in Georgia, so I'm sure a lot of Richmond players will be checking the results of that game once this one concludes to kind of see how it impacts their standings.
Richmond's going to be starting off here on defense with a pulling to William Mary offense O-line right here. Looks like handler Aiden, number 49, a freshman on William Mary Dark Horse, starting off with the disc to Gus.
Yeah, and this time a Dark Horse starts out in a side stack, and Aiden O'Connell, though he's a freshman, played for a Triforce, which is a youth club team in the Triangle area in North Carolina. The Triangle area being Raleigh, Durham, and Chapel Hill is kind of a bit of a Frisbee powerhouse area. A lot of big youth teams and top-tier college teams from that area. UNC currently being the top-ranked men's team in the country, and their women's program is also top 10.
Looks like a pick was called a little bit earlier on, but Gus still maintains possession of the disc, looking for a deep shot right here to either Carl Lasker or 26, and it gets to Carl, number 20, who ties it up again.
Yep.
Sixes here.
And the observers rule them inbounds. I know we said earlier that observers don't get to make calls. They will, however, rule on a player being in or out actively while on the field, and they put the hands up, signaling a goal or a touchdown for those of you who watch football, and that ties the game back at 6.
Definitely got a big crowd out here tonight supporting both teams. It's really amazing to see all the people who have come out to support the community in this game here, and definitely some exciting stuff that we've been seeing.
Yep. And as we were talking about earlier, both these teams have nationals-level aspirations. The way Frisbee works is teams are placed in a regional-based conference. Both these teams play in the Atlantic Coast, William Mary being Division I, Richmond Division III. And each conference receives a set number of bids to nationals based off how the teams are standing. The Division III Atlantic Coast could get pretty interesting because right now there's only one bid for nationals, but you currently have Richmond ranked 3rd in the country, Mary Washington ranked 8th, Davis 17, and UNC Asheville 22. So you have 4 top 25 teams currently competing for one spot at nationals, which will be pretty exciting to follow in a couple of months. Conference champions happening in the middle of April generally.
Yeah, absolutely. At least on the Dark Horse side of things, they have one more tournament before they enter their conference championship series. The way it works is that you attend sectionals, so you compete with teams within a subdivision of your actual region. If they are able to rank or place at a certain position within sectionals, they move on to regionals. And if they place in the top 3 regionals, I believe they would actually win a bid to nationals, which will be held in Austin, Texas this year.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. There was some controversy in the Frisbee community, I would say, when it was announced, because Austin, Texas can reach 100 degrees easily in late May, Memorial Day weekend when nationals are happening. So some players were concerned that it might be dangerously hot at times on the field, but USA Ultimates announced some preparations for that involving making sure there's proper amounts of water and shade available at the fields. But we'll see how it plays out. Usually Nationals takes place more in the north. I think this past year was Milwaukee.
All right, Richmond starting out on offense here. William Mary Dark Horse on defense with their D-line. Pretty strong performance from Richmond so far, working the disc up the field. Unfortunately, unable to catch the disc on a layout there, so turnover possession. That
was a very good attempt, but they weren't quite able to haul it in. And Jonathan Collins is taking a point off, so it is, I believe, Lucas Reichert, a Dark Horse freshman, and Taylor Gilman leading the handler core for the D-line. Lucas, another freshman who played YCC for Foggy Bottom Boys, the YCC standing for Youth Club Championship. Foggy Bottom Boys, a D.C. area team, are actually the 2018 YCC National Champions, so the top youth club team in the country.
Jack Buckles right now with the disc number 9 on. Dark Horse is Taylor Gilman, number 99, who's looking for some help right here from Lucas, as we were previously talking about, able to reset that disc.
Yeah, and since you only have 10 seconds to throw, sometimes it is worth losing a few yards or staying on the sideline to get a throw off and reset the stall count.
Looks like there was another pick here, but disc resuming in play right here.
Yeah, and you can see they've had 2 or 3 throws in a row, kind of just going backwards between Taylor and Lucas. Another one there. They're not liking the downfield options that they have, so you're better off completing a pass than not.
Lucas with a bold deep shot right here, caught by number 28, Clay, here on Dark Horse, but it looks like a call was made.
Yeah, it seemed like the Richmond defender hit the ground, so he's going to call a foul there. We'll let the players talk it out on the field.
Observers coming in to make some commentary about the play.
Yeah, we'll let the players on the field discuss. I don't think they want input from us in the peanut gallery here, so we'll see what they say. The observers kind of confer by themselves, so if the players do choose to turn to the observers, they know what they're going to rule.
If that foul by the Richmond player is maintained, the disc will go back to, I believe, Lucas, who had the disc before it was thrown off. However, that foul is contested. Clay, who just caught the disc downfield there, will maintain possession and will be able to start the play from there.
Yeah, and I think for Lucas it was a bit of a punt. They kind of just kept resetting the disc backwards, and the stall count was getting up there. So at some point they just wanted to throw it downfield and say, worst case scenario, we turn it over on our own goal line and make Richmond play offense all the way down the field. Whereas if they turned it backfield where they were earlier, Richmond would get the disc on a pretty short field.
So it looks like the foul is maintained, so the disc will be going back to Lucas.
Actually, as an uncontested, the observers ruled it was an offensive foul, so because of that, I believe it's actually a turnover, saying that the Richmond player would have gotten the D if not for the foul.
All right, so as Tyler was saying, Richmond will be going into offense here. There is a turnover. Looks like they're trying to figure out what type of offensive strategy they'll be adapting
you don't
here.
actually see a ton of offensive fouls. I think you tell both Megan and myself were not 100% certain how the resolution will work out, so that's sometimes a benefit of playing with observers. I think usually without observers, that foul just gets contested, sent back to the thrower.
Absolutely. Richmond working it up the field here, number 15 with the disc currently off to 30. 30's been a pretty consistent handler for Richmond today, pulling off a lot of great throws.
Yeah, we'll see. Richmond has the disc just past the midfield mark. He throws up a hammer and over-the-top throw. Oh, and that was a pretty-looking throw. There was a bobble on it, and he was not quite able to haul it in. A hammer being an over-the-top throw, as you can see, it was a bit of an unconventional throw. Most players stick with a traditional flick or backhand, but it got to the receiver in time. But you only see hammers 2 or 3 times a game, so sometimes players have a harder time reading or catching them because they come in at a different angle and different flight path than most throws do. Yes. Lucas has the disc in the center of the field, on his own goal line. You can tell he's waiting for some sort of downfield option.
Some nice movement
Taylor Gilman and Lucas,
Taylor Gilman.
pass it back and forth. They've been doing a lot of that at this point.
Nice cross-field throw to Jack Helms, number 23. Also a Seahorse alum.
He gets
here
it in the center.
Horse.
Yep. Resets it to Lucas. Lucas throws it around to Buckles. Throw came in at a pretty steep angle, but he was able to haul it in.
Able to. Oh, unfortunately, he is turning the disc.
A little too high, and
a little
Lucas
bit of a bumble
yeah.
on that catch. Richmond starting out on offense, number 30, who is the president of Richmond Ultimate here.
Yeah, president of Richmond Ultimate, not president of the, unlike Catherine Rowe.
Not completed yet, just on the end zone line.
About another inch forward, and they get a goal there.
William Mary Dark Horse doing some great defense here, but unfortunately it does complete it to number 21 on Richmond, and they are up 7-6.
That gives Richmond a 7-6 lead. As we mentioned earlier, halftime occurs when a team scores 8 goals, so if Richmond scores the next one, it's half. If William Mary scores 2 in a row, it is half.
Definitely.
So
a
either
great
way,
game
we're
here.
getting relatively close to the midpoint of this game, despite not quite being anywhere close to the midpoint time-wise. Only about 40 minutes have passed on the real clock.
I think the score speaks for how close this game is, though, and how competitive it is. It's really been neck and neck for this entire time, with no team having a lead by more than 1 point, it seems, for this entire game. And it lasting for this long, it definitely adds to the intensity.
Yeah, it's been a pretty fun game to watch so far. It's been a back-and-forth battle. It's one of those games that could come down to the final wire, and really every little throw, every little cut, and every little catch you make has an impact.
Definitely, and the crowd seems to be loving how close this game is and how intense. A lot of cheering, a lot of enthusiasm. Definitely been an exciting game to watch so far, and hopefully exciting for you all watching at home.
Yeah, I think it's been an absolute treat, especially now that we have the stream back up and working, to our knowledge at least.
Looks like both teams are conversing with coaches at least, or getting there. William Mary acknowledging they're ready to receive the pull.
Yeah, I think Dark Horse is aware how big of a point this is. Dark Horse started out on offense, so once halftime is reached, the team switch possessions. So once halftime hits, Dark Horse will come out on defense and Richmond on offense. So Dark Horse knows if Richmond scores here, they go into half 8-6, and Richmond will get the disc coming out of half. So that could put Dark Horse in a dangerous situation since they've yet to get a break this game.
Yeah, what they're really trying to do here is tie it up and then hopefully take half. Oh, but it looks like
not
that
a
pull
great
is out
pull
of
from
bounds.
Richmond that sails out of bounds just past midfield. So William Mary will get to take the disc in the center of the field. The center of the field left, right, and about 5 yards behind the center of the field vertically.
Gus Norbaum starting with the disc again.
And that's a pretty ideal situation to be in because really any of Dark Horse's handlers can throw from here to the end zone with a pretty high degree of accuracy. Gabe has to use all of his frame to haul that disc in.
Oh, and it's a turn for Dark Horse right here.
Yeah, I think
Richmond
they
start
tried
on
to work the
offense.
sideline a little too much. I think Aiden had to try to toe tap on the sideline and haul it in one-handed, which is never easy to do.
Richmond really working it for here. Again, if they score this point, they do take half, would be really advantageous for them. So definitely the pressure is on for the Dark Horse defense. And a close almost D there, right there for number 16, Gavin on Dark Horse.
Yeah, they applied some great pressure there, but Richmond, they've had very good hands all night. I think they had a bobble on that hammer on a previous point, but for the most part, they've been catching just about everything. They've had some one-handed catches, some where they've had to jump pretty high to get. And you never want to rely on the other team dropping discs to get turns, but Gus Norbaum with a layout block there.
And that's a turn for Dark Horse right here, back on offense. Really going to work this point up to try and tie it up and hopefully take half.
Or sorry, it would tie the game at 7. We'd still be 1 point away from taking half.
And Gus with a deep puck right here looking for Gabe, number 38, but Gabe falls a little bit and is unfortunately unable to catch it. Turnover here for Richmond.
Yeah, I think Gabe tried to shimmy past the Richmond defender, but that's not a foul because the Richmond defender was entitled to his space and Gabe tried to pass him. Dark Horse puts up a deep shot. There's 2 William Mary players in the area.
And it is knocked down, another turnover right here. But it looks like a call has been made.
Yeah, there have been more than a few calls made this game already. Again, we'll let the players and observers sort it out as needed. I don't think either of us had the best angle to really
It looks like
judge that play.
Richmond number 16 is claiming that I believe Aiden on Dark Horse hit him as he was coming down with the disc. Frisbee is a non-contact sport, although there is some aggression and contact when you do play. But if you intentionally or sometimes unintentionally knock discs out of people's hands, it is considered a foul.
Yeah, and it's a really kind of a gray line between what's incidental contact and what's foul-worthy contact. You know, you had 3 players jumping up to try to catch a disc. Some contact is going to happen no matter what. But it's just a question of how much contact and was it legal. You know, if 3 players are jumping up, it's expected they might bump a little bit. If you kind of use your hand and sort of slash the player as he's coming down, it looks like the foul is contested, so it'll go back to the Richmond player who threw the disc, and the play will more or less just reset. And sometimes that's the easiest and quickest resolution, you know. Despite filming the game, we do not use instant replay in Ultimate Frisbee, so there's no real way to have a great resolution. You don't want to go, you know, frame by frame to try to see what happened.
This goes back to number 30 on Richmond. Again, a pretty consistent handler here, president of the Richmond Ultimate Club, doing some great work on the field today. Swing across the field, number 44 right here. Dark Horse still putting up some great defense, keeping the disc downfield.
Oh, a couple of players slipped both.
And it's a turn right there. August Wagner putting on some pressure, number 21. Dark Horse starting out on offense again. Hopefully they can get this point and tie the game up.
Yeah. Yeah, this has been probably the longest point of the game so far, with both teams having multiple turns already. We'll see they're sort of trapped on the sideline here.
Nice swing across to Gus here
and
from Gabe.
That's good to get the disc in the center. He puts a
point
throw up.
To Aaron, number 1, president of William & Mary Dark Horse, to tie the game 7-7.
Yes, this next point, no matter who scores, will take this game to half, which, as we mentioned earlier, Richmond comes out of halftime on offense. So a score for them would be big here because they get the chance to play offense twice in a row, which you'd almost never get to do otherwise.
Yeah, this point's definitely going to be very important for either team because whoever scores will be taking half, so the pressure is on for both sides. Dark Horse will be starting out on defense here, so the D-line really has to do its job and get a quick turn and be able to score, and Richmond here is going to be looking to just quickly get a score right off the bat without any turns.
Yeah, and if for those of you tuning in at home, tweet us at WM_Seahorse. Let us know you're watching the game. We'll give you a shout out and a couple of points at WM_Seahorse. We'd love to hear some comments and feedback from people watching the game at home. We hope you've enjoyed it as much as we've enjoyed commentating on it, because it's been a real exciting game to watch. A lot of big plays, a lot of flashy layouts, some great throws and great catches from both teams. Hopefully this level of intensity continues because it makes for a fun atmosphere.
Yeah, this is definitely some exciting, intense ultimate, but the crowd is loving it. They're really getting into the game. Really enthusiastic and following the disc up and down the sideline, which is always what we'd like to see.
Yeah, occasionally they're getting in front of us in the I keep calling it the booth. We have a table we're standing next to, but occasionally our view is a little obstructed, but that's all right because the fans are having fun.
Exactly. All right, pull coming in here from Taylor Gilman, 99 on Dark Horse. The D-line running down to hopefully hold down Richmond offense and get a quick turn here.
Yeah, an interesting Dark Horse comes out here in the normal D-line. I was a little curious to see if, due to the high value at this point, if they'd maybe cross over players like Gus or Gabe and have them play a defensive point or two, but they've elected to stick with their normal rotation.
Still looking pretty sharp, though, right now. They've had some great pressure from these Richmond players, keeping them downfield for the most part, not really letting any deep throws go off.
See Richmond on the sideline here.
And a deep shot right there, chasing it down. And is caught by number 11, I believe, on Richmond. So Richmond does take half there with the lead 8-7.
Yeah, and as we mentioned earlier, Richmond will come out of halftime starting on offense. We're now at halftime of the Virginia Showcase Series game between William & Mary and Richmond. Halftime generally lasts 10 minutes about. Sometimes teams choose to take it a little shorter or longer, so we'll put up a countdown clock. It might not be 100% accurate, but just to give you a general idea of when the game will get started again.
Absolutely. And during this halftime, there will be a throwing competition to see which audience members can throw the disc farthest down the field. So we might do some broadcasting of that, or potentially we may be doing some interviews of members of the Here for the Girls Foundation, or potentially William & Mary Hucker captain Audrey Lowe to talk about her game that she played earlier today and how the Huckers did. Yeah,
could be a lot of different possibilities for halftime. I guess stay tuned to see what winds up happening. I guess we'll stay tuned ourselves and see what winds up happening. You can see the Dark Horse players are currently huddled up a little bit, discussing some strategy. They're getting a message from their coach. I'm sure they have some thoughts about this half, though they've played well for the most part. There have been a couple of rough spots. You know, if you're the offense, you've had a few more turnovers than you'd like. If you're the defense, you haven't generated quite as many turns as you'd like. It is obviously a very close game, so it's one of those where every little throw, catch, decision has a bigger impact.
To do the throwing competition, some members from both William & Mary women's teams out here, 2 captains from the William & Mary B team, and 2 captains from William & Mary Huckers, including Kirsten, one of the freshman handlers, and some other people who are looking to take home the gold in this throwing competition on Bush Field.
Yeah, although, as you can see now, the Dark Horse is still huddled up in the center of the field, so
yeah, we have
I would assume they'll have to clear out from there before players start letting the discs fly.
Have our competitors lining up, practicing their throws, really getting ready.
And I believe there's a gift card prize for the winner tonight. We've had gift cards donated from a myriad of places. Spike Ball, a fun sideline game to play. Food for Thought, a restaurant here in Williamsburg. The With Candy Shop in Williamsburg. a lot of different community organizations supporting this event and supporting Here for the Girls. What? Yeah, as we've mentioned a couple of times, I do just want to keep shouting them out because they do fantastic work. Here for the Girls is a Williamsburg-based organization that helps support young women with breast cancer, offering them a lot of resources and support, helping them through a difficult process. I think shortly we're hoping to get a President Rowe to actually stop by, and we might try to talk to her briefly. As I said earlier, who knows what will happen this halftime. But stay tuned. We'll be back to a pretty high-quality frisbee game in 6-7 minutes, so just stay tuned.
Looks like this throwing competition is going to start in a couple minutes.
Yeah.
David Jensen, the tournament director and the organizer of this Virginia Showcase game, organizing this effort here to see throws.
Yeah, as we mentioned earlier, David Jensen unfortunately out for the game with a knee injury, one of Dark Horse's seniors. He'll be off to law school next year. He's deciding between a couple of options. He actually just flew in back from Denver. His flight arrived in Richmond at about 2 p.m. today. And then right afterwards, he's hurried on over to the field as the first game here, the William Mary Huckers versus the Richmond Red Hots, kicked off at 5.
Yeah, David Jensen's been has made a huge effort into really organizing these showcase games and really making an impact before he graduates on the Ultimate community locally. Organizing games like this together, or also incorporating local organizations like Here for the Girls or the youth game that was played in between the women's and men's games tonight, and has seriously made a huge impact and will be missed next year for sure.
Absolutely, yeah. Some players on the field letting it rip as far as they can, getting a couple of good rolls to have the disc careen further. I don't quite know if the contest is based on furthest distance in the air or after a roll. So otherwise, I don't know if players will just try to blade the disc and have it roll as far downfield as it can.
Looks like the strategy here is to roll it down the disc, or to roll it down the field. My apologies. It looks like the farthest so far thrown by Kirsten, freshman handler on WM Huckers, was successful by rolling the disc. Still got a couple people in this competition. Once we determine the winner, we will probably try and interview President Rowe here for a little bit and talk to her about the game.
And maybe about being president of the college as well, I guess.
Definitely, for sure.
Although, I don't know, she probably spends enough time talking about that and maybe would prefer to talk about something different. Change of pace for her.
Absolutely.
It's a pretty pleasant evening here in Williamsburg, though the temperature is dropping a little bit. We'll see if the sun's obviously set several hours ago and it's getting a little colder. We'll see if that has any sort of impact as the game goes on.
Yeah, it was a little windy earlier today with some pretty strong gusts, but luckily it has died down for tonight, which has been very beneficial for the players.
Yeah. You can see the William Mary and Richmond players are pretty focused in on the game. They're not paying too much attention to the halftime festivities. They're both want to come out in the second half and win the game. I think both teams have in their mind things they did well in this first half and things they could do better, and they're just trying to figure out how they want to play it. We have a little over 3 minutes left in the half as players are just trying to stay loose, warm up, throw around. Even though halftime's only 10 minutes, when it's cold like this, it can your body can quickly get cold, and you never want to like cramp up or risk anything. I think sometimes the most common time for injuries is right out of halftime or right after a long time out. So I don't quite know what that whistle was for. It seemed to have went off errantly. I don't know if you guys could hear that in the broadcast or not, but it was right behind my ears personally. Although you sitting at home obviously are located in a very different spot than I am. But as I was saying, sometimes one of the more common times for injuries is right out of halftime or right after a timeout. The players, if you're just standing around for too long, it's not uncommon to pull or tweak something if you go from standing around to a lot of action. And I believe we do have a exciting halftime guest, president of the college, Catherine Rowe.
All right, so we are here with President Rowe.
Wonderful to be playing this early in the season.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
What will you be looking for from William & Mary Dark Horse in the second half here as they are moving into this half down?
Okay, I'd like to see them use the whole width of the field more, especially on the reset. I'd like to see them break the mark. They were starting to do that at the end of the game, which was pretty exciting.
Yeah.
And they were effective when they were breaking the mark. So those would be the two things I'd like to see on offense. The D is looking terrific.
Yeah.
They have forced so many opportunities for breaks. If they play with the same intensity, they'll continue to force opportunities for breaks.
Yeah, definitely,
Absolutely.
It looks like both teams are lining up, but thank you again so much for talking with us and just being such an important supporter of the Ultimate community here at William & Mary.
It's great to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, so as we did mention, those teams are starting to line up again for this second half here. Richmond is up by 1. 7-8 is the score. William & Mary is down. They will be starting on defense here. Richmond will be starting on offense, which will be pretty advantageous for them. Getting some sideline cheers here from William & Mary Dark Horse to bring up morale and spirit and enthusiasm here to bring some energy into this second half.
Yeah.
And the pull is off here, William & Mary Dark Horse. Nice pull here. Richmond already working it up the field pretty nicely.
And I apologize about that whistle again. We're really not sure where it's coming from, but it's off now, so.
And it's a quick turn here for
Dark Horse is able to generate a very quick turn, as President Rowe was talking about. They have another great break opportunity here.
Taylor Gilman picking up the disc once again to Lucas, number 4, rookie on Dark Horse with a lot of Frisbee experience before coming to college.
Jonathan Collins catches the disc just in front of the end zone.
Not quite in, but back to Lucas, number 4 here for the score. William & Mary's first goal out of the half and the first goal out of the half, tying up the game
and
once
that is
again.
their first break of the game to get the game tied back up at 8-8. The defense has been able to generate a lot of turns, but it is the first time they were able to punch it in. And actually, as President Rowe mentioned, Jonathan Collins to a break side throw there to get the goal. So not only is she a great president, she could be a great ultimate Frisbee coach as well.
Absolutely. She definitely knows her stuff. And it looks like Dark Horse is picking up on some cues that she was talking about as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can even see on the William & Mary sideline how much more energy and enthusiasm they have coming out of that. And a lot of times sports are a game of momentum where, breaks often come in pairs, the team gets excited, and they can keep playing with a lot of intensity.
Yeah, definitely. You can have that skill and that technique and that athleticism, but it's also hugely a mental game. If you don't have that energy and you don't have that passion, that drive to really want to be successful and play a really good game, then you're just not going to get anywhere.
Yep, we're all knotted up here at 8-all. We'll see what the teams do here. You can know both teams are pretty excited and pretty amped to play. Despite being only an hour apart, these teams honestly don't play a ton. They matched up once in the fall, but they've yet to play in the spring. I think there's just so many programs in this area that sometimes teams just happen to not face each other, but it is a little bit of a rivalry, the teams being only an hour apart. And, it's a Virginia school, so a lot of these players may have played with each other in high school or throughout summer leagues.
Dark Horse starting again on defense here with Richmond moving the disc pretty effectively across the field, back and forth. Jonathan Collins, number 42 senior, on the mark right now. Nice crossfield swing to number 30 on Richmond. He's been a pretty impactful player on the field today,
yeah, it's
generating
like
a lot of the
Cowan,
movement.
a president from Cincinnati. He had Xavier McCormack, number 13, who's also had a lot of big plays this game. Some sort of call on the field, though. Looks like it's going to bring the disc. Well, we'll see what they discuss, but
I believe it was a pick that was called, but play will resume with number 15 right here in the disc.
Well,
or a little bit of another call that happened right here. The observers coming in. The disc will not be in play until 15 taps it on the ground.
And we're live. They have the disc in the center, about 15-ish yards from the end zone. Stall count's getting up there. They're going to have to do something with it soon. They take a shot, and it is caught.
Number 21 on Richmond, who's also been pretty impactful on the field today with the shot to number 15 to make Richmond up again, score 9-8. It's really been a lot of this back and forth here today with, you know, the teams going back and forth, just going one-on-one with each other, each increasing by 1 point every single turn, but they've both been fighting so hard, and it's been really great to watch.
Yeah, and for those of you watching at home, we do just want to give a shout-out to the Tech Services Department. They're the ones who've made this broadcast possible. They're headed by Jeff Herrick with student assistants Liz Holmes, Claire Hogan, and Sean Yu. Without them, this broadcast wouldn't be possible, so we do just want to give them a big shout-out. It's not often College Ultimate gets a live-streamed broadcast, so it's a pretty exciting opportunity, especially when it's a close and exciting game like this one.
So William Mary O-line will be making their first appearance this half on this point. That has captains Gus Norbob and Gabe Westergan on the field, hopefully going to make some movements. Their main goal here is just going to be to drive that disc up the field without any turnover and changes in possession and just get a quick score.
Yeah, as you might have noticed, William Mary's D-line rotates players a lot more. You've seen, you know, even their lead handlers like Jonathan and Taylor Gilman take some points off, whereas the core of William Mary's O-line sort of stays on every single point. The idea being an O-line doesn't get broken very often, so they really only have to play 1 point, then they get a rest. Whereas hopefully if a D-line's able to generate some breaks, you want to rotate players a little bit just to make sure legs stay fresh.
Typically also with new players, it's easier to put them on defensive lines because their main goal is to play defense and not necessarily make really hard throws, which is why you see more rotation.
A lot of times freshmen who make the A-teams come in with pretty athletic but maybe not a lot of Frisbee experience. You can kind of take advantage of the athleticism by having them play defense.
Looks like a
Gus Norbaum started out as a cutter there but quickly gets the disc back.
Yeah,
thrown by Aiden O'Connell, who is one of Dark Horse's freshmen.
Definitely see that interesting change in handlers to begin with, but Gus Norbaum coming back for that disc immediately because he's such an integral part of this O-line right here. Carl Lasker to Gavin with the disc right now, looking to score. And Gabe, number 38, captain, gets the score to tie it up again, 9s for
as Megan mentioned before the point, they did exactly what their goal was, work it down the field pretty easily without any turnovers. Not all the throws were super easy for William & Mary, but there was really never a point where it looked like they were panicked or trapped. They were able to confidently and coolly and collectively just sort of work the disc down the field.
Yeah, you're not going to have perfect throws every single time in an O-line, but what's really important is that you have this synergy and this energy together, and you're able to react to different movements and communicate so well. And you kind of see that on the field where they're just so easy. They react to each other so easily, and they just kind of can predict each other's movements, and it really is an important thing for this offensive line.
Yeah, as we've mentioned before, this game is sanctioned by USA Ultimate, the governing body for Club Ultimate throughout the country, the highest level of college ultimate. So these games will count towards the official standing of the team's record, and the way teams are ranked, every point actually makes an impact in their ranking. So with both these teams fighting for spots at nationals, they know every point counts a lot, just for not just for winning this game, for keeping it close and keeping it competitive.
Yeah, absolutely. As Tyler was saying, points are especially important. So whichever team does lose this game, because it is so close and they've both racked up so many points, it will help them in their overall ranking for USAU because points do contribute to ranking as well.
Yeah.
If you have a lot of close games, it's going to mean that you are a better team and you're going to be ranked higher than a team that may have a better record than you but loses pretty significantly by a lot of points.
Although having said that, with the intensity both these teams are playing, well, it's a consolation prize. I don't know how happy a team will be to hear that their USAU ranking was helped by a close loss. I think both these teams want to come away with the win, and there's a deep shot that goes off. Can he run it down?
He can. And layout score
that
for
was
number
a fantastic
21 on
catch.
Richmond.
If you're William & Mary, you kind of just have to shrug that one off and say, you know what, that's a great catch. Nothing you can do about that. That handler put a disc where only his receiver could make a play on it. He sprinted as fast as he could, fully extended, got the catch. That might be an ESPN top 10 play nominee.
So that was a layout there for number 21 on Richmond. A layout is when you actually will dive for the disc to the ground. Some layouts can be shoulder high, so some players will really commit to catching that disc and jump from standing height in order to catch the disc on the ground. Yeah,
it was a very good catch. Really, for the defense, you just have to shake that one off. You know, you can tell Richmond had a lot of energy from that, as they should, because that was a very impressive catch. But if you're the defense, you're kind of okay giving up that throw. There's not a lot of players who can make that catch. So you kind of accept that, yeah, that was a very spectacular catch, and sometimes players are just going to do that. But for the most part, you want to focus on not giving up the easy throws and easy catches, which William Mary did a good job of there.
And now the William Mary O-line is back in action, hopefully, to do what they just did a couple points ago and really work it up the field quickly with no turnovers and score that point. So hopefully they can bring that same energy that Richmond just had and score this point right here. They've acknowledged that they are ready to receive the pull. Richmond going to be pulling the disc again, starting out on defense.
The William Mary sideline bringing a lot of energy, chanting and shouting, trying to get their offense hyped up. Again, Gus Norbaum starts out with a cutter. It's Aiden O'Connell and Aaron Groves with the disc.
Oh, interesting. Richmond here starting out with a zone defense. We haven't seen this from them tonight. A zone defense is different because instead of guarding actual players, you guard specific areas on the field. It looks like Richmond has some sort of a cup, so those three players surrounding the disc, their main goal is to really isolate that thrower and prevent them from throwing anything upfield or too drastic like a huck.
Usually you throw a zone if it's windy or if conditions are rough because it makes it harder to get throws off. Like that hammer Gus threw there, if it was windy, would have been a much harder throw, but in the relatively flat conditions, you can get that off pretty easily. Yeah, it looks like Richmond has switched to man because when Mary worked the disc upfield pretty easily in the zone, but
that was a beautiful throw right there to Carl, and now Gabe and Gus working it up the field to tie it up once again. O-line does exactly what they needed to do, and it ties up the game 10-10. Really intense right here.
Yeah, and I think if you're Richmond, even though that zone was not successful and didn't work, I think they just wanted to try something different, try out a new look. William Mary's offense has only been broken once, but other than that, it's been able to score every time. So they were saying our man-to-man defense hasn't been great, hasn't been getting what we want to get, so why don't we give something different a shot? And you can't fault them for trying it. We'll see as the game goes on if maybe they try to throw the zone again or if they back out of it, because William Mary didn't seem to struggle too much with it.
Again, these games are played to 15 tonight, so whatever team scores 15 first will be the winner, or it is also a timed game. So if the teams start to approach 10 minutes before the game is supposed to be up, they will enter what's called soft cap. No, there's no soft cap. My apologies. But either the team will have to score 15 or the game will run out, and whoever has the most points will win the game.
Yeah, as Megan was hinting at, sometimes tournaments use a soft cap format where maybe 10 minutes before the end of the game you blow a horn, and whoever has the highest score, you play to that score +2. So if the score is 11-9 at soft cap, you play to 13. Since this is a one-off game and not a tournament, the teams have elected to not use a soft cap and simply play to a time limit. However, there's still 50 minutes left, and both teams have 10 each, so unless these points really pick up in length, I suspect one team will hit 15. Which team hits 15 goals first? Your guess is as good as mine, though.
Yeah, definitely. As we've been saying, it is a close game, so it could be anybody's win right now. But definitely similar intensity from both teams here. They both really want it, and they're both going to keep fighting for it.
Yeah, the pool goes up. Richmond starts with a disc. They have it in the center of their field, about 10 yards in front of their own end zone.
Again, number 30 really taking control of the disc here. He's been probably the most consistent handler we've seen all day from Richmond, really working it up the field effectively and having some of the best throws I've seen from Richmond today.
Yeah. Richmond has so far been willing to take a lot more deep shots than William and Mary. At this point, they've been pretty patient at the start, but from what we've seen so far, we know they're always looking to take a deeper shot and throw something up if they need to.
Nice crossfield movement here from Richmond.
And
deep throw. And it looks like a D. From number 31 on Dark Horse, I believe that's David Bishop right there, freshman from Arlington, Virginia, who was able to knock that disc down.
David Bishop, ironically nicknamed Little Sauce, is probably the tallest member of the team. So if you're going to challenge someone deep, I don't know if he's necessarily the one to challenge with all of his height, but Richmond's been very willing to shoot the disc deep when they have to.
So we see
or
here
when they want to.
William Mary D-line right here trying to work it up the field. D-line handler Taylor Gilman working it up, passing to Jack Helms, number 23, with those bright
and usually,
orange cleats.
Taylor Gilman's usually pretty willing to take the deep shot, but as we've noticed, he is wearing a sling on his shoulder and nursing a bit of a shoulder injury. So I don't know if he's tempered his throws a little bit because of that.
Looks like a pick has been called here before the throw come off. So the
even though the pick occurred before the throw, since it didn't occur with Taylor Gilman and his defender, it's unaffecting, and play will continue on.
Taylor looking to pass it off to Jonathan here.
Yeah,
Who's
Jonathan
be looking
Collins,
for that
also
deep
one
throw.
of the taller players, had to use his height to get that one.
Really great movement here
Yeah.
from these two D-line handlers. Really getting some movement across the field to swing it back and forth.
Yeah, Taylor and Jonathan have been passing back and forth the past few, and they're just going to run the disc as much as they can.
Some great movement from there. And a nice deep shot from Jonathan, looking to either Ethan Rue or Clay, and Ethan Rue catches the disc to put Dark Horse in the lead for the first time in a while. They are up 11-10. Very exciting for them here. Let's hope they keep bringing this energy and increase this point lead.
I don't remember exactly how this game started. I think Dark Horse started on offense. They traded holds, but Richmond got a break pretty early on, so that's Dark Horse's first lead in a pretty long time.
Yeah. But definitely exciting for them. Better to have a lead in this later in the game compared to earlier in the game. So hopefully they can continue the momentum.
I remember when the score was maybe 2-1 or 2-2, I'd mentioned if the teams both traded holds back and forth, Richmond would win. I distinctly remember saying I don't think that's going to happen, and up until that point it looked like it was pretty close to happening. So, so that was some fantastic play from the defense there. A couple of rookies, David Bishop and Ethan Rue, stepped up, generating the turn and getting the score. You can see now Dark Horse has started to tighten their lines up a bit. My suspicion would be Taylor Gilman, known as Apollo, and Jonathan Collins will play every D point, as they are the two leading D-line handlers.
Yeah, they're really great for the D-line to capitalize off this momentum here, as they will be playing again. So as Tyler was saying, Taylor Gilman and Jonathan, those two D-line handlers, are hopefully going to be able to work that magic once again and get a quick turn and work it up the field really nicely as they did.
Yeah, on the defense, to a capacity, knows they've done their job. From here on out, if William Mary's offense scores every time they get the disc, William Mary will eke out the victory. I'm sure the D-line would love to get another break or two to try to accentuate the victory and give them a cushion to work with, but Richmond's offense knows they have to score, let their defense get on the field, and generate a turn themselves.
Really great cheers here from the sideline, getting involved in the game from William Mary Dark Horse members, trying to keep that spirit and that energy up, which is exciting to see.
And William Mary can be pretty good at getting the intensity up and generating turns late in games. The previous showcase game against JMU was tied at 10-all at one point. Oh, uncovered man deep in the end zone.
And he catches it for
That was
a
little too easy for Richmond, unfortunately for William Mary.
Bit of a miscommunication there. It looked like number 13 was uncovered. Number 13 has been making some really important
Xavier
plays for Richmond today.
Also known as X. He's a junior from Summit, New Jersey. He played for LA Gridlock, a club team out in California in the off-season. He actually tore his meniscus in October, on October 5th, the day before his birthday, which is not the best birthday
Pretty
present.
Unfortunate, yeah.
Well, right before that throw went off, I was trying to say the previous showcase game was tied at 10-all, and William Mary got a 15-10 win, really twisting the knife and putting up the intensity. Richmond showed some pretty good resilience there. They didn't let the break get into their head, and they were able to tie it up at 11. But as I said earlier, if William Mary's offense scores every time they start with a disc, they will get the win. But I think if you're the defense, you kind of thrive in this type of opportunity. Richmond's defense knows the game is in their hands, as is William Mary's defense. Whichever defense can get breaks and get turns can win this game. Yeah. And you kind of revel in that type of opportunity. I'm sure we'll see a lot more layouts, a lot more big plays, every player giving it their all.
Yeah, and again, William Mary's offensive line is back in action, and they've been doing pretty consistently this half, doing exactly what they need to do, working it up the field with no turns. So hopefully they will be able to do it again and put William Mary back in the lead as they just were. William Mary acknowledges that they're ready to receive the disc, and here goes Richmond with the pull. Great pull here. Gus Norbaum will be picking up the disc this time, back in handler action.
Yeah.
Looks like William Mary's doing some sort of a play here with a side stack, it looks like.
Yeah,
Gabe was cutting deep. Fortunately, does not work.
They did start out with all the players on the side. They're kind of isolated Gabe, and then Gabe will take the deep shot. It's got a lot of float on it, though, so we'll see.
And Carl Lasker recovers the disc for an amazing catch. Looks like there was a call made, though, however. regardless of a call, that was an amazing catch from Carl Lasker to recover it on the ground.
Yeah, we'll let I think this is one of those where it might be nice to have observers. I think this game's getting intense, and the players will talk about it, but the observers will discuss, and the observers rule it a goal.
And they ruled the goal,
The observers rule it a goal.
Carl Lasker successfully catches and completes a score for William & Mary, putting them back in the lead 12-11.
Yeah, I think when that throw went off, you could kind of see it in Gabe's reaction. He realized that was a lower percent throw than he wanted. It floated a little more than he wanted. A great heads-up play by Carl to get it off the deflection. I think the Richmond players thought it might have touched the ground. The observers, who had probably the best angle to watch the play there, ruled it did not, to make it 12-11 in favor of William & Mary. And that might be another SportsCenter Top 10 nominee.
Yeah, you know, what makes really great handlers is being able to make throws that almost seem impossible, but you got to think on the flip side of that, cutters are those people who are going to be able to move into open space and make catches that almost seem like they're completely unattainable. So Carl Lasker right there, great cutter, was able to make use of his field awareness and be able to recover that disc and get the score for him.
Yeah, and if you're Richmond's defense, you're obviously this late in the game, you don't want to concede any goals, but you're probably kind of okay with that. You did get your hand on the D, you tipped it. That was a pretty low percentage throw that went off. It was a little bit, I mean, a great play by Carl, but a little bit lucky, I'd say, and Richmond's defense knows that. But on the other hand, this late in the game, you know, no matter how it's scored on an easy deep shot, crazy layout, one goal is one goal.
Absolutely, and we're going to have William & Mary's D-line back out here again with those two D-line handlers, Taylor Gilman and Jonathan Collins out here. Hopefully going to get a quick turn and make that score even go up more. Great pull here from Taylor. Richmond starting out on offense again.
Yeah.
They're going to be looking to move it up the field as quickly as possible and get a score off.
That's some pretty good float. William & Mary's able to get downfield pretty quickly.
Great defense here from William & Mary, keeping it nice and tight, putting the pressure on, which is exactly what you need to do in a situation like this.
Yeah, it's a little bit hectic right now. A lot of players running around pretty rapidly. I think there's a decent amount of tension and nerves going on where everyone knows how important every little throw and catch is.
Yeah, you can even feel it on the sideline right here. Players running up and down, following the disc, cheering on, giving advice, and the players in the field definitely can see that too.
Yeah, Richmond has the disc at about midfield, working it downfield.
Freshman Clay here on the mark, looking to cross field swing.
Count's getting pretty high, but they get it off.
Taylor Gilman on the mark once again. He's going to put that pressure on right here. Looks like a call has been made. I believe a pick.
Yeah, I think sometimes Richmond's offense was a little chaotic, so there can be a lot going on. Picks can tend to happen when an offense gets a little cluttery. So far, though, the chaotic offense has worked for Richmond. And despite the pick, the players discussed and ruled that the player was picked, but he didn't have a play on the disc, so the Richmond player gets to keep the disc.
Richmond still maintaining the disc here, trying to move it up the field, getting some nice swings to center it, looking to just get in that pocket and score.
Yeah, they're about
outfield throw
shot.
Right here. Oh, it's a goal here for Richmond to tie it up once again from number 11, who's made a decent number of goals today.
Yeah, that was another great catch from Richmond. They've had some very sticky hands today. I keep using the phrase SportsCenter Top 10 nominee. I'll say it again, although if I'm being fully honest, I have no idea how to nominate a play for the SportsCenter Top 10, but, you know.
Yeah, number 11 on Richmond here is actually a freshman, Alex Pistolesi. Sorry if I mispronounced this. Nickname is Pistol, from the Bronx in New York, but he was actually born in Rome, Italy. But he's definitely had a huge impact on this team, making a lot of goals for Richmond and really helping them out.
The William & Mary D-line probably wishes he was still in Rome and not here to make that snag.
Absolutely. But, again, we're going to have William & Mary O-line back out in the action.
Yeah,
hopefully they can do exactly what they've been doing so far and just get the disc down the field without any turns.
Although I'm sure they also hope that they can get a goal a little easier than the last one. I don't know how often you can bank on Carl Lasker making a layout catch to save a tip disc. A lot of players do, like Carl, have very good speed and very good field awareness, so they are able to make those catches, but it's maybe not the maybe not your go-to play.
Definitely not the optimal thing, but Carl, because he is so consistent and has probably some of the best catching hands on the team, like is always so consistent with catching the disc. And sometimes it just seems like no one's going to get it, and then boom, Carl's right there, and he just is able to catch that disc.
Yeah, and we'll see the past few times William & Mary has used a bit of a side stack offensive where they isolate one or two players. It's been Gus and Gabe for the most part. We'll see if they continue. No, it looks like this time they use a more traditional vert stack with the players in the center of the field.
Disc did come out of bounds, so Gus Norbaum is able to bring the disc to the center and a little bit upfield, it looks like.
Yeah, so the disc went out of bounds in the end zone, so the players get to take the disc to what's known as the brick. It's about 20 yards in front of the end zone, right in the center of the field.
Gabe with a nice cut right there to bring it across the field. Looking for that deep shot once again. Not thrown off, but to August right here, number 21. Great catch, great jump right there. Looking to move it across the field once again. Nice throw to Carl Lasker, number 20, as we were talking about earlier.
Carl did not have to lay out to make that catch. He was able to just run under it.
Aiden, number 49, a freshman here with the disc. Throws it off to number 26, Tomas, another freshman. Gus Norbaum with some great movement once again to reclaim possession of that disc and work it up the field nicely.
Yeah, Aiden O'Connell with the disc in the center, swings it to August.
Gus again with the disc, looking for that score right here. Throws it to the back pocket. Can Carl get it? Yes, he can. Carl Lasker with another score.
And that makes
it 13-12.
William Mary keeps their slim 1-goal lead. I don't believe there's ever been a point in this game where the team's been separated by more than 1 point. It's truly been neck and neck.
No, I definitely think you're right here, Tyler. But again, it just speaks to the intensity of what's going on here. But it's definitely great to see William Mary kind of being in that lead now. For a while there, Richmond seemed to be the one that was kind of egging on that 1-point lead. But the tables have turned, and William Mary is able to keep going strong right here.
Yeah, you can see Catherine Rowe, and still in attendance, very intently watching the game. I'm sure she's very busy as president of the college, but with a game like this, how can you leave?
Absolutely. Definitely great to have her out here supporting the team and just showing how much she cares about the Ultimate community.
Yeah. I'm still very grateful that she was willing to give us a halftime interview. We honestly did not expect that at all at the start of today.
William Mary's going to be back out with this D-line here. Looks like they've kept a pretty consistent roster. Some changes with the cutters, but Taylor Gilman and Jonathan Collins are still on the line.
I think they want their lead 2 handlers out as much as possible. I'm just going to do one more quick plug for Here for the Girls. You can check out their website at hereforthegirls.org. They're a great breast cancer organization that offers support year-round. And they're a fantastic organization. We're very grateful that they helped partner with us to help make this event as awesome as it could be.
Yeah, we were able to interview one of the members and executive members of the organization in the women's game, so we really encourage you to check out that live stream and see our interview with her. You can also find donation information on the William Mary Ultimate Twitter at WM Ultimate.
Yeah. And now back to the game on the field. Richmond has the disc in the center of the field, about 10-15 yards from their own end zone.
Looks like they're running a host stack offense configuration, horizontal stack again, back with 3 handlers and 4 cutters. Host stack is a little more fluid, so if you have a pretty consistent, well-rounded group of players,
and another
really
deep shot goes
offense.
off. It's a one-on-one.
Bryce, freshman William Mary, able to knock it down and get a turn for William Mary right here. Let's hope this D-line offense can work it up the field and get a score.
And that was Bryce Whitney, another key player who's a freshman for Dark Horse. As we mentioned, Dark Horse graduated about 12 seniors last year, so they wound up taking a large freshman class, which can always cause some hesitation from some of the captains returning players, but the rookies have all been able to step it up and then some.
Dark Horse already moving it up the field here with Jonathan throwing it to Josh Singer, JZ Jr. here at the college. Apollo with a great deep throw, and Bryce running down for it. If Bryce catches this, he will make what is called a bookends. Oh, but unfortunately is unable to.
And you know what?
Okay.
That I think between the Richmond player, whose name we unfortunately do not know, and Bryce, that evens the score at 1-1 apiece. They were battling so far at this point, both taking a deep shot, and both times the defense was able to win.
Definitely. Great intensity for both of them. I mentioned the term bookends. Bookends is when you start out on defense and you are able to actually create that turnover and change a possession, and then within the turnover score the next point. Oh, looks like a little bit of a trip here from Apollo. Taylor Gilman here. Point scored for Richmond.
Yeah, and I think
30.
the contact was incidental. Taylor Gilman kind of tripped, so he showed some great spirit by not calling a foul. Some players in a close game like this would be willing to would just try to call a foul to, take the goal back. But Taylor Gilman, a graduate student, was able to recognize that 2 players were running. He fell down, and the Richmond player made a great play to catch that disc.
The game is tied up here, 13s, with about 34 minutes to go left in the game. It's been continuously going neck and neck, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, as we've said, if one team hits 15, the game ends. So I'm not sure we'll wind up going the full 30 minutes remaining.
But I definitely still think that the intensity is going to pick up here, and the plays are only going to get more dramatic and more intense. We're definitely probably going to see more layouts, more contested throws in the air.
Yeah, and I'll be curious to see if Dark Horse, if they score here, if they'll consider crossing any players over, having some players like Gus or Gabe maybe play defense for a bit. Traditionally, teams play in a tournament setting where they play 3 or 4 games a day, both Saturday and Sunday, often 7, 8 games in a weekend. So you have to be more conscious about players taking time off and getting the proper amount of rest. But here, this is only a one-off game with no follow-up tomorrow, so the players know they can give it 120%, and if they're a little sore tomorrow, so be it, So they can spend their Sunday sitting in their dorms watching March Madness, I guess. I don't know.
Richmond off with the pull here, number 0. Great pull here, but William & Mary O-line is definitely going to step up to the plate and bring a lot of movement upfield. Oh, looks like an offsides call was made by the observers. This means that the team pulled the disc in front of their end zone line. All team members on the defensive line for Richmond must be behind that end zone line before the disc is pulled off. Yeah, and offsides is really only called on games with observers because they're actively watching for the offsides. I believe teams get a warning on their first offsides, and I think after that there are some yardage type of penalties assessed. Richmond again here with the pull. Observer does not call the offside, so we are in play. Seems to have affected the puller's mentality a little bit. Landing barely inbounds. Yeah, almost out of bounds. Quick turnover here. Miscommunication within Dark Horse. Richmond really going to be looking to take it right here with this quick turnover. Yeah, unfortunately, I think Dark Horse wishes they could retract that offsides call because they had the disc right in the center at the top of the field. Whereas the intensity is still picking up here. Dark Horse is putting on some of the most hard defense and aggressive defense I've seen all day. Yeah. Really not wanting to give Richmond this point. And a nice, amazing foot block here from Gus Norbaum, captain. And you know what? Gus acts like it's nothing. He just gets the foot block and keeps walking. Doesn't really react. So what happened there was the thrower released the disc from his hands, but Gus knocked it down with his foot, giving William & Mary the possession on offense and working the field. Disc upfield already with a throw from Gabe to August Wagner. Completed, number 21. Not completely in, but really close. But Aiden, number 49, makes it a goal. And that was a phenomenal play by Gus, too. After that quick turn, right at the start, I think William & Mary was a little on edge, knowing Richmond had to complete one throw to get the score. Gus Norbaum made a fantastic play to prevent that from happening, and then William & Mary took all of 2 throws to get it back down the field for a score. 14-13, William & Mary on top. 1 goal from William & Mary gets them the win. Richmond has to hold on offense here and then generate a break. Yeah, Richmond's definitely going to be feeling the heat on this point. But as we have seen, this pattern has been evident for the past couple of points where William & Mary does get in the lead, but Richmond is able to catch up. But hopefully William & Mary, knowing how serious this point is and knowing the stakes, will be able to put out a line and make some magic happen and win this game. Yeah. Looks like the observers were discussing something quick on the center of the field. I guess they just want to make sure in an intense game like this, the team stays spirited and keep playing by the rules. Yeah, we did mention spirit of the game is super important, and the observers are here to facilitate that so things don't get a little too intense and teams kind of start getting aggressive with each other. This is a supportive community. It is a positive environment and a great sport, so we want to keep it that way. Yeah. And honestly, of all the crazy layouts and catches we've seen today, Gus Norbaum's foot block there, which he walks off acting like it was nothing, might have been the biggest play of the game because Richmond punches in a goal there. They have that 14-13 lead. Instead, William & Mary was able to keep that lead, and that's huge, knowing they only need 1 more goal to get a victory. And Tyler, it looks like you are right here. They have done some swapping between the 2 lines. Gabe, who has typically been playing on O-line today, is now actually on this D-line point. Hopefully he's going to add, and also Carl Lasker, hopefully they're going to add some great skills to this D-line and be able to take that goal. Yeah, I think Carl and Gabe are 2 very athletic players. Carl, one of the fastest players on the team. Gabe, a captain with a lot of athleticism. And Gabe down with the disc. Amazing D right here. But a call has been made. Yeah. So observers are going to come in and see what's up. We'll see what they discuss. It looked like Gabe was able to high point it and get the D, but there was a degree of contact as he jumped up. Looks like there's a little bit of shouldering going on, but That is a discussion that's happening. Observers are going to come in and be able to make a call right here.
Yeah, I think in a game as close as this, it's probably easiest to talk to the observers. The observers are going to confer between themselves, discuss what they saw, and discuss if they think it was a foul or not.
Motions are running high. Intensity's there. It's definitely good to have a third person, unbiased perspective who is able to give an opinion and kind of know what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah, and the observers are taking their time to discuss it to make sure they get the call right, which you have to respect. In a game as close as this, as late as this is a big call.
Looks like they're about to deliver a call here.
Unfortunately, we're not quite able to see what they're saying or read lips. I don't, unless you possess that skill. I certainly do
not.
not.
No, unfortunately, but this is definitely a very serious point, and it looks like the foul was contested. They were unable to see what happened, so the throw does go back to the Richmond player who initially threw it off. So hopefully William & Mary can get that quick defense here right again and be able to turn it over immediately.
Yeah.
Thanks to August for giving us that information about the observers for that last point. Yeah.
Richmond stall count's getting up there. William & Mary's doing a great job with their downfield defense and on the marks, not giving off easy throws.
Yeah, there's a lot of pressure on these handlers here, which is exactly what they need to do because they've been the ones who have been working it upfield the most today. So the pressure needs to be put on them the most.
Yeah, and you can sort of see Richmond's sort of dialed in their offense a bit. Previously, they've used a lot of deep shots. At this point, they've been taking it a lot shorter and safer. I think as much as the deep shots have worked, they do know it's a lower percentage throw than the short ones. And
deep shot right here from number 13. And it looks like it was not completed.
Yeah. Yeah, that is big there. It looked like he was kind of close to the sideline and not able to haul that pass in, unfortunately, for Richmond. But that's big for William & Mary. If they can work it the length of the field, they get the game.
That was a great run from number 30 on Richmond. But Apollo sinks it down the field to Carl Lasker, who jumps up and comes down with the disc and gives it to Josh who's unfortunately fumbles it a little bit.
I think they might have went a little too quick there. Fantastic catch by Carl. That is a great sky. He just out-jumped his man, Xavier McCormack, who's been made a lot of great plays for Richmond. But
yeah, I think they definitely got a little too excited, though, and popped it off a little too soon.
And that was a tricky catch. Jay-Z was kind of backpedaling, so it's hard to catch a disc over your head while backpedaling. You kind of have a lot of different momentums going a lot of different ways.
The benefit here, though, is that they are really close to their end zone. So if they are able to make a play happen here, they are so close. And if a turnover happens, then they're right there, and they could make a goal pretty quickly.
Yeah, they call timeout, which sort of makes sense in a long point like this and an impactful point like this. I think you can see both teams have some nerves and tensions. Both sides had a disc that could have been caught for a score but wasn't able to be hauled in. You wonder if this game was still, 5-5 and players weren't quite as locked in, if maybe those would have been caught. 'Cause sometimes players sort of overfocus or get a little nervous or get a little too in their own heads knowing how impactful a point is.
Both players looks like getting water run to them because they've been working hard out here, and it's really great to kind of reset for a little bit and rehydrate some and hopefully get back up to speed in order to finish out this point.
Yeah, Richmond will start with the disc about 70 yards from their own end zone. They're looking for a goal to tie the game and send it to Universe. Universe point being a next goal wins the game.
Timeout ending right here. Richmond will start with the possession of the disc on the end zone line. William & Mary looking to get a quick turn and score right here.
Yeah.
Definitely a lot of enthusiasm and cheering on the sideline here for the William & Mary side of things. They are so close to winning this game, and so having this sideline enthusiasm and intensity is going to be super encouraging for them on the field.
Yeah, we'll see what Richmond chooses to do here. They have, the deep shot, but sometimes it can be hard to get a good look off because William & Mary knows that's what they have to stop.
Jonathan Collins, senior here on the mark, doing a great job of putting the pressure on number 30. Doing a good job of keeping the disc downfield so far. There's been a couple of resets, but nothing too dramatic that's happened. Number 13 with the disc again.
Yeah, they have the disc about in the center, maybe 50 yards from the end zone, looking for a score.
Number 30 looking deep right here. 13 throws it off to number 4, Taylor Gilman on the mark.
Richmond has 3 or 4 players cut deep. One of them goes under to get the dish. They've passed the midfield line.
Richmond doing a great job of moving it up the field and getting some swings off and just general movement for players. Deep shot here for number 30, trying to get it to number 13. He comes
and
down with the disc.
That's a goal. We have a universe point, 14 all. Next goal wins the game. The game timer doesn't really have any impact anymore. It's just whoever scores this point wins the game and comes home with a victory.
Yeah, so again, 30, senior Graydon Cowan, who got the disc off to number 13, Xavier McCormack. Once again, they've been pretty consistent out here today, making a lot of these big plays and making the scores.
Yeah, we'll see what the lines look like for William & Mary. They do have the advantage of starting on offense, so they know it's kind of in their hands. If they don't turn the disc over, they win the game. Simple as that. And I think
Coach Ethan Downs calling for a timeout right now to do exactly what Tyler's talking about and make this universe line and put out some of the best players here for the most effective position that they're in. Tyler was saying they are starting out on offense, so a lot of their core players like Gus Norbaum, Gabe Westergen are going to be on this line, but I'm definitely sure there might be some crossover between the two lines to really put out the strongest one that they have.
Yeah, I'm sure Richmond's going to do the same. They'll talk it over. I think Dark Horse might have a slightly bigger team than Richmond does. They've had pretty set O&D lines, whereas Richmond's had a lot more players cross over between the two lines. These two teams met in the fall. Richmond got the win 11-10 on Universe. I'm sure that's in the back of the mind of players from both teams, really. Richmond looking to repeat that. William & Mary trying to use the energy and remembering that to flip the table and turn the script around.
Yeah, absolutely. Tyler's brought up a really great point that we see the difference between these two teams. William & Mary has been switching between their O and D lines quite frequently, so some players are only playing every other point, while in Richmond there seems to be a lot more crossover, having some players which seems to be playing for almost the entire game. There's obviously benefits and downsides to each of those things, but what Richmond may be really capitalizing on is keeping those players in the game and keeping the momentum up and just engaging with that so far and not having any breaks so that they can keep this play going.
Yeah, and I think that's, again, the advantage of playing a one-off game is those players can play every point because this is the only game. If you're playing 6-7 games in a weekend, you really can't have someone play all, 20-some points, 7 games a weekend, or they'd run themselves into the ground.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure the timeout here is a great way for them to catch their breath, but also in a game like this, you can feel the energy. I think Megan and myself are both a little nervous ourselves. I'm sure the players on the field are running on pure adrenaline right now. If you were to ask any of them, are you tired? You'd get a pretty definitive, no, not at all. Let's keep this going.
Absolutely. It looks like on the William & Mary side of things, they've actually stuck with their consistent O-line, which makes a lot of sense. In this, ever since they got that lead in this part of the game, this O-line has performed really well. They've done exactly what they needed to do, as I've said many times. And it just is the smartest thing to do to keep that line out there because they have that chemistry and they're going to be able to do
They've only been
best.
Broken once, maybe twice this game, so I'm sure they know more often than not they've been able to generate holds. And they'll keep that up. It is interesting to note Xavier McCormack, number 13, is taking the point off for Richmond.
Additionally, so is Grayson, number 30, who has been such a big handler on this game. But they are playing defense, so it is smart for Richmond to put that intensity up there. Deep shot, but it's a turn right here. Great look from William & Mary, but it is a turn, so Richmond will be starting out on offense.
I think that disc was coming in at just a bit of an angle, and it was kind of a tough one to haul in because Carl had to jump high.
We can already see the speed of this point is picking up. Teams moving so much more faster, my apologies, within this point because the intensity is so high.
Richmond's worked the disc about a third of the way down the field.
Although the O-line is out, this does not mean their defense is not 100% intense. They are really putting the pressure on right now, playing really aggressively, which is exactly what you want to see.
They get an around throw, center the disc, move it back past the midfield line.
Gus Norbaum on the mark right now.
Good catch by Richmond there. High disc was able to haul it in.
Carl Lasker on the mark right here, doing a great job of sealing off. Oh, almost a D there from Aiden. Oh, looks like a call was made.
Throw and
looks like a foul was called with Carl Lasker. Not sure on which side. Observers coming in to dictate the situation.
I think they ruled no foul. Let's play on.
So Richmond
I think it might have actually been the Richmond thrower there who called the foul on Carl, saying there was contact on the throw.
Oh, timeout looks
Richmond
like has been called
uses
again.
their timeout. Yeah, I think all three. There have been 3 timeouts in the past 2 points this half, which makes sense due to the intensity. Richmond has the disc about 10, 12 yards from their own end zone, or from the end zone. dead center of the field, so they have a lot of options here, knowing that a score gets them a huge win.
No, it's gone.
Yeah, I took it off.
Okay. Both teams huddling up here, strategizing what the best thing to do. Richmond does have the advantage of here because they are on offense and have more advantage to score a point. But William Mary is going to be fighting for that disc 100% and going to put the pressure on defense and hopefully get a turn here.
Yeah, and I think William Mary is very aware that every single player on this Richmond team can make a throw from this part of the field to the end zone, so they have to be on high alert. Sometimes that might mean you give up an under or a reset if it means you can keep them out of the end zone. One goal ends the game, and in theory, Richmond could be 1 or 2 throws away from getting there. On the other hand, Dark Horse, if they're able to generate a turn, has been able to get some deep shots to work. So really, if they get, I wouldn't be shocked if Dark Horse gets a quick turn if they look for an almost immediate deep shot and try to take the momentum from defense and carry it over.
Looks like Richmond offense has set up, so William Mary is able to take their positions right now, and the point will commence shortly.
Yeah, Richmond lines up with the bulk of their players in the end zone. We'll see if they run some sort of set play. Out of the timeout, Gus Norbaum does go on the mark. I think we can all remember that foot block he had a few points back. He is very good on the mark.
And a shot up to Richmond right here. And they catch
That's
it
a
to
goal.
complete the game. Richmond takes it 15-4, or 14, my apologies. Definitely a close game for sure, an exciting game.
Yeah.
A lot of good ultimate was played today, and unfortunately William Mary does not take it, but they were close.
Yeah, and that was a bit of a tricky end zone play from Richmond. They sort of set up with all the cutters in the end zone, which I think made William Mary expect an isolation cut to come from someone in the end zone. Instead, they had the off-handler make a strike cut, which they weren't 100% expecting, and then that was a very good throw into space. It allowed them to run under it and get the score.
I think this game is a really great example of, as Tyler and I were talking about earlier, although Richmond is a D3 team, that does not mean that their skill level should be taken lightly. They are a force to be reckoned with, as you saw here today, bringing a really intense game. Oh, it looks like that the game is actually not over, and we have completely been misinformed. The win is by 2 points. We apologize. Definitely some miscommunication here, so another line will be put out. So William Mary could still take it, but Richmond is up right now.
I will say the tournament director, David Jensen, could have shared that information with us before we started the broadcast. I'm standing here right next to him.
If you have any complaints, please direct them to David Jensen. He is the one who misinformed before. But good news for us and for all you watching, supporting William Mary, is that they still have a chance to continue with this game.
Yeah, I think you can tell based off sideline reactions. I don't think every player knew it was a win by 2 thing.
Looks like we got a shout out from a Richmond player on the field mic for this broadcast, but William Mary is still coming out to play today.
On that note, I will put the game clock back on because I believe it still has an impact. Just to clarify, the rules are win by 2 or capped at 17, so the final score could be 17-16.
Yeah, we apologize again for that miscommunication. We were misinformed, but now we're back in action.
Does not take away from the spectacular plays that have been made this game at all. And now I guess Richmond has the disc up 15-14, so a goal would win them the game. That might also explain why Richmond didn't necessarily cross all their players over for that last point, because it wasn't exactly a universe point.
Yeah, things seem to make a lot more sense now that we've learned that gameplay is up by 2 and not to 15. Deep shot here from Richmond, number 13. And they catch Richmond, number 21, with the goal here to make it 14-16.
And I was a math major here at the college. I believe that should satisfy the win by 2 condition. Either way, a very exciting game. Our apologies again for the miscommunication there at the end, but Richmond does get a 16-14 win. The teams will line up to give some post-game congratulations. As we've said, Spirit's a big thing, especially for teams located so close to each other that'll play each other again and again, I assume.
Yeah, so these teams will congratulate each other on the game. They will cheer each other on to really promote the spirit of the game mentality. And they really should celebrate it because it was a close game. It was a great game. A lot of great ultimate was played, and there's definitely room for them to go and move up and do really well in their respective divisions this season.
Yeah, I think as we Mentioned earlier today, Dark Horse's previous 2 losses both been on Universe. This is only their 3rd loss of the season, and all have been very, very close games. All tightly contested, battles to the end. This is the final Virginia Showcase Series game. Both these teams will be back in action next week. Dark Horse at Easterns in Myrtle Beach, and Richmond's hosting D3 Easterns in their hometown of Richmond. Yeah,
and after those 2 tournaments, as Tyler was saying, they do enter their conference championships. Richmond will actually only have regionals, I believe, or sectionals. They only have one competitive division looking for a bid to nationals. Dark Horse is a little bit of a harder journey, having to pass through sectionals and regionals in order to earn a bid to nationals.
I'm sure as much fun as this game was to watch, I'm sure both these teams are slightly relieved they don't have to play each other again after a game like this. It took everything they had. I'm sure both teams, Dark Horse might walk away a little disappointed about the final result, but they did do a lot of good things on the field. Richmond has to be very happy. That game was 14-0, and they got back-to-back breaks to get a win. Not that I'm sure they also will grow and develop from this, take away certain things they wish they'd done better, but Richmond has to be very happy with their performance today. I'd say, based off the rankings, this result was a little bit of an upset and probably not one people necessarily expected. I think people thought it'd be a close game, but William & Mary was the slight favorite. Not that there's really, Vegas odds for Ultimate Frisbee.
Yeah, absolutely. We want to thank all of you who have been listening to our broadcast today, and for the fans who have come to cheer on the teams on the sideline for both the women's and the men's games.
Yeah, again, it's headed up by Jeff Herrick with student assistants Liz Holmes, Claire Hogan, and Sean Yu.
And that's our IT department who came out and was able to make this live stream possible. We'd really like to thank them for all their support, especially with the technical difficulties we were experiencing today. We are going to have a special acrostic poem reading from William Mary Hucker Comlimenti right here on the field mic. She's going to be showing her support for her brother team.
D, dashing. A, amazing. R, respectful. K, kind. H, hearts. O,
not a lot of H words out there.
Outstanding. S, R, respectful again. S, super great. E, everything that we love and more. We love Dark Horse. That was my acrostic poem.
I think that'll.
And that was Comlimenti.
Thank you all again for tuning in. I think we'll be checking out here tonight.
Yeah. Sis, Megan, and Tyler signing off. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Yeah.